Welcome back to my channel. Let's dive into today's story. Chapter 1. The house was quiet. Too quiet. Staff Sergeant Nathan Cole stood in the doorway of his own home for the first time in 2 years, the key still warm in his palm. Rain tapped against the porch roof. His boots, still caked in Afghan dirt, left silent prints on the hardwood floor. It was supposed to be a surprise. His early return from the field was classified. Only the army and the coroner had known he was alive. To the world, to his wife, Nathan Cole had been dead. But death had not taken him. It had spat him out. He stepped inside and closed the door without a sound. The hallway smelled different. Lavender and wine. A soft glow flickered from the upstairs landing. Music played faintly. Low. Sultry. Then a noise. A soft laugh. A man's voice. Nathan froze at the bottom of the staircase. His pulse quickened. That voice, too familiar. He climbed each step like it might break. The third one creaked. He paused, then moved again. He reached the bedroom door. It was slightly ajar. Through the gap, candlelight flickered over 2 naked bodies tangled in white sheets. A woman's back, blonde hair. His wife, Emily, laughing, whispering. And the man? Nathan's mouth went dry. His hand trembled against the doorknob. Pastor Elijah Ward. His voice sent Nathan back to the church where the man had stood behind a pulpit just months ago and delivered a tear-choked eulogy for our fallen brother, Staff Sergeant Nathan Cole, a man of honor. Nathan had cried too, in the shadows, watching his own funeral from afar. Now he watched Elijah's hand on Emily's skin. His metal case slipped from his fingers, landed softly on the hallway rug. Inside the room, they never noticed. Nathan turned around and walked back down the stairs. Silent, haunted, burning. He did not scream. He did not break anything. Not yet. But as he stepped out into the cold, wet night and disappeared into the darkness, one question thundered in his mind. What do you do when the man who buried you is now sleeping in your bed? The motel room smelled like cigarettes and rain. Nathan sat on the edge of a lumpy mattress, staring at the reflection of a stranger in the cracked mirror. His face was thinner, eyes darker. The scar above his temple, a jagged souvenir from the blast that killed him, at least on paper. 3 minutes without a pulse. Enough for the army to pronounce him dead. He lit a cigarette, even though he hated smoking, and watched the ember burn. He had left the metal case behind. Maybe it belonged there now. He turned on the burner phone he had been given after discharge. No calls. No messages. No one knew he was here. That was the plan. He was not supposed to be alive. Emily had said she would wait forever. She had kissed him at the bus station with tears and promises. She wore his dog tags to bed when he was deployed. She sent letters, video messages, told their son, "Daddy is a hero." And now? Now she lay beside a man who gave sermons about loyalty and righteousness. Elijah Ward, the community's golden preacher. The man who held Nathan's son during his fake memorial. The man who patted Nathan's father's shoulder and promised to watch over them. He had watched too well. Nathan opened his notebook, began writing details. Times, voices, faces. He had no plan yet, but he had anger, grief, and the steady, disciplined patience of a soldier who had waited out sandstorms and sniper fire. There would be no confrontation, not yet. Let them believe he was gone. Let them believe their lives were safe. Because when a man comes back from the dead, he is not just alive. He is dangerous. Sunday morning. Pine Bluff Baptist Church echoed with music and polished shoes. Families filled the pews. Children laughed. Old men nodded. And up at the pulpit, Elijah Ward smiled like a saint. Nathan watched from the back, baseball cap low over his eyes. No one recognized him. Dead men are invisible. Elijah looked so pure, whispered a woman beside him. He is a blessing to this town. Nathan almost laughed, but it came out as a silent exhale. Elijah preached about trust, about honoring the fallen. He quoted scriptures about resurrection, irony thick in every word. Emily sat in the front pew, hand on their son's shoulder. She wore black, still playing the grieving widow. Nathan's hand gripped the edge of the pew until his knuckles turned white. Let us remember, Elijah said, that God sees truth even in darkness. Nathan's fingers loosened. He had seen enough. He slipped out before the final hymn and walked 3 blocks to the edge of town to the cemetery. The memorial stone still stood. Staff Sergeant Nathan Cole, 1985 to 2024, son. Husband. Hero. He stared at it for a long time. Then he crouched down and whispered, "They buried the wrong man." From that moment, he made a vow. He would not expose them with rage. He would not scream, or fight, or post online. No. He would build something colder, stronger, a quiet revenge. Because saints like Elijah hide behind pulpits, and wives like Emily hide behind grief. But when their lies start to rot, they stink. And Nathan? He was going to make them smell it. Rain fell again that night. Nathan sat in his parked truck, engine off, 2 blocks from his former home. The streetlight flickered overhead. In the distance, behind the drawn curtains of what used to be his living room, shadows danced across the walls. He knew the layout of the house like muscle memory. That corner of the living room was where he used to rock his son to sleep. The upstairs guest room, now Elijah's overnight spot, had once been where Nathan studied for officer exams. Every wall, every creak, every memory lived in him like a second skin. He raised the camera. The zoom lens caught Emily walking past the window, wine glass in hand. Elijah followed her, laughing, shirtless. They were not hiding anymore. Why would they? Nathan was dead. A small red light blinked on his recorder. Another file saved. More proof. Inside the truck, he had created a small station. A map of Pine Bluff on the dashboard. A notebook filled with times, movements, behaviors, patterns. If a man wanted revenge, he had to move smarter than emotion. Still, it gnawed at him. The sound of his son's voice from the open window. "Good night, Pastor Elijah." Nathan nearly crushed the steering wheel in his grip. The man had taken everything. Not just his wife, not just his home, but his identity, his fatherhood, his very place in the world. Nathan pressed the record button again. Note: May 3rd, 8:46 p.m. My son just called the man who gave my eulogy. Dad. He leaned back, breath shaking. No tears. Not tonight. He needed to keep watching. Because before he struck, he had to understand every inch of their lie. 3 months ago. Afghanistan. Smoke choked the sky as the armored convoy burned on the ridge behind them. Nathan lay in the dirt, face soaked with blood, eardrums shattered from the blast. He remembered the medic screaming something he could not hear. He remembered his heart stopping. 3 minutes. They later told him he had flatlined for 3 whole minutes. Long enough for the army to send the death report. Long enough for his wife to receive flowers and condolences. He woke up in Germany. No one had expected it. Medical miracle, they called him. But Nathan did not feel like a miracle. He felt like a man stripped of everything. The uniform still fit, but the world no longer did. By the time he returned stateside, his death had already become a narrative. A framed photo on a wall. A folded flag in a glass box. No one questioned the clerical error that delayed the official update. No one questioned why his wife moved on so fast. No one questioned Elijah's comfort. Because grief is a great smokescreen. Nathan stood now at the Army Records Office in D.C., staring at his own death certificate. It was notarized. Signed. Filed by Emily Cole. Dated just 12 days after he was declared MIA. 12 days. He asked the clerk, "How soon can someone collect death benefits?" The woman flipped through a binder. "If the paperwork is clean, sometimes within 2 weeks." Nathan's eyes narrowed. She had not wasted time mourning. She had prepared to bury him and move on. As he walked out into the rain, Nathan looked at the form again. 2 signatures. Emily's and Elijah Ward's, as the confirming witness. His hand shook, but not from grief anymore. From clarity. They had not just let him die. They had helped it happen on paper. Pine Bluff Community Bank was quiet on Mondays. Nathan stood in line, dressed in plain clothes, sunglasses on. New ID. New name. He was no longer Nathan Cole. Not legally. That identity was still dead. He was Daniel Scott now. And Daniel had a reason to visit this bank. The teller smiled. "How can I help you today?" I'm trying to trace a series of wire transfers, Nathan said smoothly. I work with Veterans Financial Recovery. There may be embezzlement involved. She hesitated. We would need permission. He pulled out a business card, forged, but flawless, from a nonprofit that sounded too official to question. She nodded. Give me a moment. While she walked away, Nathan looked at the wall of community partners. A large photo of Pastor Elijah shaking hands with the bank CEO. Charity fund, $200,000 donated last quarter. He clenched his jaw. 10 minutes later, he sat in a small office with a folder open in front of him. Emily's account, deposited $312,000 over 6 months. Marked as military benefits, survivor compensation, and donations. Elijah's account, frequent deposits from the church's Family Restoration Fund, same days as Emily's. It was clear. Elijah had used the church as a laundering front to funnel money into their new life. Nathan snapped photos. Every page, every transaction. His heart pounded as he reached the final sheet. A down payment for a lake house. Signed by Emily Ward. Not Cole. She had already changed her name in escrow. Nathan leaned back. The lie was deeper than he thought. This was not a casual affair. It was a planned life replacement. And he was supposed to stay buried. But now? Now he was alive. And he had everything he needed to destroy them. The sun had barely risen when Emily stepped out of her front door, a steaming mug in her hand, and Nathan zoomed in from the passenger seat of his parked truck across the street. She wore his old army hoodie, the same one she had told friends was too sacred to touch after his death. Nathan exhaled slowly, keeping the camera lens steady. Her fake grief had become a uniform she wore too well. Just then, her phone rang. She glanced at the screen, smiled, and answered. Elijah, she said sweetly. Yes, he left already. I think he's heading to the church early. A pause. Then her tone shifted, sharper, more serious. No, Elijah, listen. The benefits are still flowing, but I do not want any more checks sent to your personal account. We need to keep everything under my name until after the house closes. Got it. Nathan froze. He hit record. Emily walked farther into the yard, voice dropping low. I have held up my end of this, Elijah. I played the grieving wife. I sat through his memorial. I signed those damn papers. You promised me this would all be behind us by now. She paced like someone who had repeated this argument more than once. There was no sorrow, no fear, just calculation. I do not care about his medals. I buried the past, Elijah. I buried it with him. Nathan's hands curled into fists. He had seen enough. He lowered the camera, heart racing. She had not buried him. She had erased him. Now it was time for him to return, not with a scream, but with silence sharp enough to cut through bone. And when the truth came crashing down, he would make sure everyone saw exactly who she was behind that hoodie. Hey, before we dive deeper into this insane twist, let me ask you something. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or street name in the comments. I love seeing how far these stories travel. And if you're still watching, that means you're hooked. So do me a favor, tap that like button if you're feeling the tension, and subscribe if you want more mind-blowing stories like this. We're on the road to 10,000 subscribers, and your one click gets us closer. I drop new cinematic thrillers every week, full of betrayal, revenge, and twists you won't see coming. All right, back to the story. Nathan's motel room had transformed into a command center. The walls were lined with photos, receipts, voice transcripts, maps. Dozens of sticky notes formed a messy timeline of betrayal. Each note was tagged by color: green for financial fraud, blue for lies told publicly, red for emotional manipulation. The entire story was there, except no one had read it yet. He placed a fresh USB stick into the laptop, uploading the latest audio from Emily's phone call. I buried the past, Elijah. I buried it with him. He replayed it 3 times. Each time, the bitterness in her voice hit harder. He opened his notebook and scribbled, Emily initiated fraud. Confirmed recorded conversation. She is instructing Elijah on payment control. She is no longer manipulated. She is a co-conspirator. A knock at the motel door broke his focus. He reached for his sidearm instinctively, the one he technically was not allowed to own anymore. "Who is it?" he called out. A voice answered, soft and familiar. "It's me, Riley." Nathan opened the door slowly. Riley Tran stepped in. She had been a logistics officer in his unit, now a federal accountant tracking VA misuse. "I got your message," she said, her voice low. "You said you had something big." Nathan handed her the drive. She plugged it into her tablet. Her expression changed within seconds of hearing Emily's voice. "This is federal-level fraud, Nathan. That benefit account is monitored. If she altered documentation, she did," Nathan said coldly. "They both did. And I have proof." Riley looked at him carefully. "You could go public with this now. Why are you waiting?" Nathan looked back at the wall of lies he had built. "Because exposing them is not enough," he whispered. "I want them to feel what I felt. I want them to lose everything." Riley did not argue. She just nodded and hit save. Nathan sat in the back row of the elementary school auditorium, hidden under the brim of a worn cap. His hands gripped the seat in front of him as children filed onto the stage in pairs, small, eager faces glowing under the bright lights. Then he saw him. Caleb Cole, 7 years old. Same brown eyes. Same nervous way of holding his hands behind his back. He looked so much like Nathan at that age. It hit like a punch to the chest. Caleb stood at the microphone with another student. "My name is Caleb," he said proudly. "And today, I want to thank the most important person in my life." Nathan held his breath. "My second dad, Pastor Elijah." Nathan's stomach turned. The crowd clapped politely. Elijah, sitting just a few rows ahead, smiled like a man who believed he deserved it. Emily rested her hand on his leg. Nathan felt frozen in time. Everything he had fought for overseas, the injuries, the blood, the missed birthdays, now replaced by a man in tailored suits and sermons. He barely heard the rest of the performance. Afterward, he waited in the shadows behind a tree near the parking lot. He watched Emily, Elijah, and Caleb walk out together, hand in hand. Caleb looked up at Elijah and asked, "Did I do good?" "You were amazing, son," Elijah said. That word, son, cut deeper than anything. Nathan's hand trembled against the bark of the tree. Riley's words echoed in his mind. You could go public now, but he shook his head. Not yet. The world needed to see them smile, needed to believe in their illusion, before he destroyed it publicly, completely, and without mercy. Because this was not just about fraud anymore. This was about stealing a legacy. And Nathan was about to take it back. Nathan stood in the garage of his childhood home. What was left of it? The old wooden flag case that once held his folded burial flag now sat on the dusty workbench. A spider had woven a web between the corner and the broken glass. He reached for it, then paused, his fingertips hovering over the cloth. This flag had been presented to Emily at his funeral. He remembered watching it happen from a car down the street. She had wept into it for the cameras, held it to her chest like a grieving widow. And when the cameras were gone, she had thrown it into storage. Now, Nathan stared at it like it was a question. Burn it or reclaim it? His hands tightened. He placed it gently into his duffel bag. He had been thinking about revenge like a soldier, strike, finish, exit. But this was deeper. Elijah had taken Nathan's place in the community, the church, and now even in fatherhood. This was not just betrayal. This was identity theft at the soul level. Nathan opened his laptop. A new email drafted to the Department of Defense Fraud Division. Anonymous. Clean. Attached were Emily's forged documents, audio clips, and banking records. He hovered over send, but did not press it. Not yet. Instead, he saved the email into a hidden folder and encrypted it. Because public exposure was not enough. Not for what they had done. This was not going to end with a news article or courtroom headline. It was going to end with humiliation, with the truth unraveling piece by piece in front of everyone who once believed in them. And when they looked up, searching for someone to blame, they would see the ghost they buried, alive, watching, and smiling. Nathan needed access, close, dangerous access. He became Daniel Scott, a military widow's support volunteer. A quick database entry by Riley gave him the official badge. His backstory: Special Ops vet, survivor of friendly fire, relocated under trauma recovery. He knew no one would question it. Pine Bluff's small-town heart trusted military stories. Everyone had one. The church ran monthly grief counseling sessions. Elijah hosted them. Emily sometimes attended. Nathan signed up. He kept his beard trimmed, wore dark glasses, and carried a quiet demeanor, the kind that earned sympathy, not suspicion. The session was held in the church annex. As he entered, his boots touched the same tiled floor where his fake memorial had taken place. "Elijah should be here soon," said the assistant, offering him a seat. Nathan sat, fourth chair from the end, the same one his father had occupied at the funeral. He scanned the circle. 3 women, 2 men, and then, finally, she entered. Emily. She sat across from him, her face pale, eyes tired, like the lies were beginning to wear down her soul. Elijah followed, glowing with charm. "Welcome, everyone," he said. "Tonight, we open our hearts." Nathan kept his head down but let his voice tremble once, just enough. "I lost someone in combat," he said. "Someone I trusted." Emily flinched. Elijah tilted his head. "Brother in arms." Nathan looked up briefly. "No. Someone who replaced me before I was even gone." Elijah stiffened. Emily swallowed. The room shifted. Nathan smiled inside. He was not just close now. He was in the room, behind their defenses, under their skin. And from here, he would start to rip the walls down one brick at a time. The meeting ended in silence. Emily walked to the coffee station in the corner of the annex. Her hands shook as she poured. Nathan walked up behind her, slow, controlled. "You dropped this," he said, handing her the grief journal she had left behind. She turned, startled. Her eyes searched his face, but saw nothing familiar. "Oh, thank you," she said, forcing a smile. "Your story," Nathan said. "It sounds painful." Emily's smile faltered. "Yeah, it is. He was a good man." "Was?" She blinked. "I mean, he died overseas." Nathan held her gaze just long enough. "I hear death does not always mean gone." She looked confused, maybe unnerved, but he turned and walked away. Outside, the sky cracked with thunder. Inside his truck, Nathan replayed the audio recorder he had slipped under Elijah's chair. The conversation after the session was gold. Elijah's voice. "Did that guy feel familiar to you?" Emily, his voice. "I do not know. I got a weird feeling." Elijah, "Paranoia is natural. We are almost done. After this house is signed over, we vanish." Emily, "I need this over, Elijah. Every time I close my eyes, I see him." Elijah, "He is dead, Em." Nathan leaned back in the seat. He closed his eyes, not out of peace, but focus. Elijah was rushing to escape, which meant pressure was building. Nathan did not have much time left. But that was all right, because the next phase would not just shake their world. It would shatter everything they had rebuilt on his grave. The Pine Bluff church glowed under golden morning light. Outside, families gathered, fresh suits, floral dresses, coffee cups, and small talk. It was baptism Sunday, Elijah's favorite kind of stage. Inside, the holy water rippled quietly in the baptismal tub behind the pulpit. Nathan stood across the street, watching through binoculars. He wore a phone earpiece, synced to a live mic hidden under the stage, a plant he had installed last night during volunteer repairs. He had recorded Elijah's full rehearsal that morning. "And today we cleanse the soul of our community," Elijah said on the tape, voice booming. "We wash away what once was and prepare for what is to come." Nathan smirked. "You do not get to wash away betrayal with water. Not this time." Back in his truck, Nathan opened his laptop. He began editing together a 3-minute video, a tight montage of Elijah's words from the mic, layered over footage from the bank files, Emily's audio confession, and a final image, Nathan's name carved into a tombstone. He saved it as "Resurrecting the Truth, A Dead Man Speaks." It was not for public release yet. But soon, inside the church, the organ music started. Nathan switched channels on the earpiece, Now streaming live audio from Riley, who had just walked in and sat in the back pew, pretending to be a visitor. Her whisper came through the feed. "They look calm. Too calm." Nathan replied quietly. "Let them be calm. Because by the time this church held its next baptism, the only thing Elijah would be washing off was handcuff ink." Later that day, Nathan sat across from Riley in a quiet diner on the outskirts of town. She slid over a manila folder. "I pulled this from the Federal Archive," she said. "It is your original death file. And guess who signed the release of benefits form on day 11? Nathan opened the folder. There it was. Ink smudged, but clear. Elijah Ward, clergy and witness of death. Riley tapped another document. And here, the life insurance claim filed just 1 day later. It was approved in record time. Probably because it was pushed through by a trusted community leader. Nathan stared at the paper. It was strange, he thought, to see your own name on a list meant for ghosts. How much did they collect, he asked. Close to 400,000. Half from military benefits. Half from civilian insurance. He clenched his jaw. That is blood money. Riley nodded. And they are laundering it. I traced several transactions to Elijah's church front accounts. The Restoration Hope Fund is fake. It is being used to hide transfers to private real estate. Nathan pulled out his notebook. They have a lake house deal in escrow. I need that contract. Riley smirked. Already got it. Closing is in 10 days. Nathan leaned back in his chair. 10 days. That was the window. 10 days until they disappeared with stolen money, stolen identity, and stolen legacy. And 10 days for him to do something so public, so undeniable, that no law or loophole could undo it. They buried me in silence, Nathan said, folding the papers. But I am coming back with noise. It had been weeks since Nathan sat in a room without recording devices or surveillance screens. This room was different. Warm walls. Soft lighting. A single window with late sunlight spilling in. He sat across from Dr. Alana Pierce, the VA therapist who had been quietly helping soldiers like him for years. She was calm, not judging, just listening. I keep telling myself this is justice, Nathan said, his voice quiet. But sometimes, I wonder if I am just trying to make them hurt. She folded her hands. You were betrayed. That creates anger, grief, and a need to control something when everything else was taken from you. Nathan nodded. She told our son I was a hero. Let him cry at a funeral. Then she handed him off to the man who gave my eulogy. That kind of betrayal does not just wound you, Dr. Pierce said. It rewrites your sense of self. That is not something you recover from quickly. Nathan leaned forward. They rewrote my story, my identity. They made me disappear. And I let it happen because I wanted to believe someone still loved me. Silence. Then she asked gently, what is it you want now? Nathan stared out the window for a long moment. Not forgiveness. Not peace. I want the truth on record. I want the world to know I was never the liar. Dr. Pierce nodded slowly. Then do it clean. Do it smart. Make your legacy louder than their lies. Nathan stood up, filled with new clarity. He had been playing this like a soldier. But now? Now he was going to play it like a man with nothing left to lose except his name. Elijah Ward walked into the dim-lit office of his church after Sunday evening service, shoulders relaxed, tie loosened. He had preached for 90 minutes straight. The congregation loved him. He poured himself a glass of whiskey, something he never let his followers see. Another week of righteous deception, he whispered with a smirk. But tonight his phone buzzed. A message from a private number. Nice sermon, Pastor. Shame about the hotel visit last Friday. Room 219, wasn't it? Elijah's hand froze mid-sip. He opened the attached image. There he was, in bed with Deanna Marcus, a woman from the grief group. Her face blurred, his exposed. Panic gripped him. This was not from Emily. She did not know about Deanna. He stared at the screen, then at the office door. Locked. Still, he felt watched. He immediately called Emily. Hey, she answered groggy. What is wrong? Someone knows. About the hotel. They sent me a picture. Who? I do not know. No name. No threat. Just a message. Emily went silent. Then, you said no one saw you. Are you sure? Yes, I am sure. I wore a cap. I used cash. There were no cameras. But someone was watching, she whispered. And for the first time, her voice cracked. Elijah leaned against the desk, breathing hard. We need to disappear after the closing, he said. No more waiting. No more public appearances. One slip, and we are done. But what he did not know was that the photo was taken by Nathan through the next room's peephole. And that message? That was just the beginning. Because before Nathan brought down the house, he was going to strip away every mask, one sin at a time. The school parking lot buzzed with the sound of laughter, backpacks sipping, and buses starting. Nathan stood behind a tree near the back fence, baseball cap low, heart hammering in his chest. Across the field, Caleb, his son, ran toward the sidewalk with a crayon drawing clutched in his hand. Emily waited near the curb. Nathan raised the small camera, not to gather evidence this time, but for himself. Caleb waved the paper proudly. I drew our family. Emily crouched to see it. Is that me and Elijah? Yeah, and that's me. And this, he pointed to a faint scribble near the corner. That was my real dad. But I do not really remember him. Nathan's heart shattered in a silent, invisible way. He had faced bullets, bombs, and blood, but nothing prepared him for erasure. Not just as a husband, but as a father. Emily tucked the drawing into her purse. You will remember what matters, she said. Nathan backed away. He sat in his truck for over an hour, just staring out the windshield. He whispered aloud, he forgot me. And something inside him changed. This was no longer about catching them. This was about reclaiming what was his. Not through fire, not through rage, but through absolute, total exposure. He opened his laptop and created a new folder. Title: For Caleb, the truth about his real father. Inside, he saved voice memos, videos, photos from Afghanistan, letters, and everything Emily never showed their son. Because one day, Caleb would want to know. And when he did, he would find the full story waiting for him, straight from the man they tried to erase. Riley met Nathan in the back room of an old auto garage run by a veteran named Lou, a gruff, loyal man who owed Nathan his life. This is Jace, Riley said, nodding toward a lanky 20-something with a laptop covered in code stickers. He is our backdoor into the church network. Jace tapped a key. Firewall was a joke. Took me 20 minutes. Nathan leaned over. What did you find? Jace clicked through folder after folder. Financial reports. Sermon drafts. Internal memos. But this is gold. He pulled up a spreadsheet. It showed a detailed breakdown of donor manipulation. Nathan read the rows. Elderly church members whose names were used to funnel funds into shell charities. Signed off by Elijah, with scanned copies of their ID cards. He is robbing the same people who bury their spouses, Riley whispered. Jace opened another folder. Emails between Elijah and Emily. Look at this. One message, sent from Elijah's personal account. Once the house closes, we pull the plug on this town. Burn the bridge. Take what is left and start fresh. They will move on. They always do. Another email. No one will ever know what really happened to Nathan. He is a ghost. He cannot come back from this. Nathan stood frozen, reading his own name spoken like a joke. Like he was disposable. Jace looked at him carefully. Do you want me to release this? Nathan shook his head. Not yet. He turned to Riley. We are going to make sure they are watched by everyone before the fall. Full exposure. All eyes. Live. Riley raised an eyebrow. You want a stage? Nathan nodded. A stage big enough that no one ever forgets who they tried to bury. Nathan stood in the walk-in closet of his old home, a place he was never supposed to return to. He had broken in through the back window while Emily and Elijah were out at dinner. They were predictable now, Tuesday nights at Bella Vita, the Italian place near the lake. The air inside the house smelled like lavender candles and fake memories. His footsteps were silent. Upstairs, in the master bedroom, everything had changed. New sheets. New furniture. The walls were painted a soft gray. The picture of their wedding was gone. He went to the closet. The same cedar shelves. The same scent of her perfume. He opened the tall armoire on the left. In the bottom drawer, beneath a pile of folded sweaters, he found what he was looking for, a small fireproof safe. Exactly where she used to keep sentimental things. He picked the lock in seconds. Years in the field had taught him many things: how to break into places, how to read patterns, how to disappear. Inside the safe was a zip folder. He opened it carefully. Nathan's original death certificate. His medals. His wedding ring, the one she told the insurance investigator had been lost in the bombing. He stared at it for a long time. Also inside, forged military forms, wire receipts, and handwritten notes detailing timelines. Every piece of their deception laid out like a confession written in silence. He took photos of everything. Before leaving, he placed a single envelope in the safe. Inside it, a photo. Him, standing in front of her favorite cafe. Taken that morning. No message. No name. Just presence. Just a whisper. I am not gone. I am watching. Sunday came, but not like the others. This time, Elijah stood at the pulpit with sweat on his brow and trembling hands beneath the pages of his sermon. Something felt wrong. The crowd was thinner. Whispers moved faster than the choir. Even the ushers avoided eye contact. Then he saw it. A flyer folded in half, peeking out from the offering basket. He reached in and opened it. Black and white. No headline. Just a photo of him, in bed with a woman who was not Emily. The date stamped on the bottom, just last week. His face turned pale. Another flyer was found in the front pew. Another in the donation box. Then someone stood up in the middle of the crowd. "Pastor," the woman said, "is this you?" He stumbled through a denial, but it came out weak. "No, that is doctored. That is a smear." Nathan sat in the back row, watching behind dark glasses, just like he had the day of his fake funeral. He had planted every single flyer that morning. Elijah tried to continue the sermon, but the air had changed. Eyes that once adored him now stared with suspicion. Emily sat frozen in the front pew, gripping the edge of her seat. Her hands were shaking. She knew this was not random. This was targeted. Someone was coming for them. After service, Elijah locked his office door. He tore through his emails. More anonymous messages. Screenshots. Images. Surveillance. Emily burst in. "You said we were safe." Elijah slammed his fist on the desk. "Someone is inside. Watching us." She stared at him. "No," she whispered. "He is watching us." And for the first time since Nathan died, fear finally bloomed in their eyes. Nathan stood at the edge of the church parking lot as the congregation trickled out. People talked quietly now. Side glances. Questions. He had done exactly what he needed, planted just enough truth to start the fall. But not enough to end it. Not yet. He opened his phone and sent a scheduled text to a group of 25 people. Elders. Donors. Community leaders. A simple message: truth is louder than sermons. Ask your pastor where the Restoration Hope money went. No name. No link. Just the right question. By nightfall, it had spread like wildfire. Elijah sat in his home office, surrounded by folders, bank ledgers, and old sermons. He had not touched his dinner. Emily paced behind him. "I told you not to make it this public," she hissed. He looked up. "I did not do this." "Oh, really?" She snapped. "Because it is your face in those photos. Your email and those spreadsheets." "I handled it clean," he said. "I used charity fronts. I used trust. No one was supposed to unless someone inside is watching." He stood up slowly. "What are you saying?" "I am saying this feels personal," she said. "It feels like he is back." Elijah shook his head. "No. He is gone. He has to be." Emily's voice dropped to a whisper. "Then why did I find this?" She pulled out the photo from the safe and Nathan, alive, watching. Elijah stared at it like it was a ghost. And in that moment, the truth hit him. The man they buried had come back to life. But not for redemption. For revenge. The sky was gray when the knock came at Nathan's motel door. 3 hard pounds. Followed by a pause. Nathan reached for his weapon, but stopped. Something felt wrong. He looked through the peephole, saw 2 men in suits. No badges. No uniforms. Just quiet authority. One of them spoke through the door. "Mr. Scott? We are with the Department of Defense. We need to ask you a few questions." Nathan opened the door slowly, cautious. Yes. The taller one flashed a badge. We received a tip regarding fraudulent military identity claims. Someone has accused you of impersonating a deceased Army soldier named Nathan Cole. Nathan's blood ran cold. He had prepared for many things. But not this. I am Nathan Cole, he said calmly. I was mistakenly declared dead. That has already been cleared with the VA and my attorney. The agent stepped inside. We have paperwork that suggests otherwise. Your fingerprints match those flagged under an identity misuse report. What? Nathan's voice sharpened. That makes no sense. We need you to come with us. Within minutes, he was cuffed, his laptop bag seized, and his notes scattered across the motel floor. He was driven to a federal holding site outside Pine Bluff. Behind one-way glass, Elijah watched from a seat beside Emily. You did this, she whispered. Elijah's voice was cold. He got too close. I warned you. But what if they believe him? They will not. Because now, he is the criminal. And across the table, Nathan sat in a metal chair, his hands chained, his name under fire, his plan burning. For the first time since returning from the dead, he was the one being hunted. The interrogation room was cold. Nathan's hands were numb from the cuffs. He stared at the man across the table, Agent Davis, lead investigator for the DoD Fraud Division. Davis opened a thick file. Your fingerprints were flagged. Your ID does not exist. Your name is attached to a death certificate. And you were caught using forged credentials. Nathan exhaled. Because I was declared dead by mistake. I have proof. I survived an IED. My heart stopped. They filed the paperwork before the medics stabilized me. Davis flipped a page. The system says you died. And someone collected $400,000 under your death. I know. Because they lied. My wife, and the man who gave my eulogy. Davis leaned forward. That is a strong accusation. It is a fact. I have recordings, banking documents, surveillance. Look at the files on my laptop. Davis looked at the other agent and nodded. We're reviewing the drive now. But Nathan's got twisted. He had a sinking feeling they would not find what he had stored. Emily and Elijah had covered their tracks better than he thought. Or they had planted something. That night, back in his holding cell, he was given a printed report. It showed an anonymous tip sent days ago with screenshots of messages from Nathan's account, threatening Emily and admitting to faking his death for insurance revenge. Fabricated. Slipped into his device remotely. He stared at the paper. Elijah had flipped the game. Nathan had been winning from the shadows. But now, Elijah had dragged him into the light and twisted the truth into a weapon. Nathan sat alone in the dark cell and whispered to himself, They think this is checkmate. He smiled. They forgot what I do when I am cornered. 2 days later, a woman stepped into the holding facility, hair tied back, tailored suit, briefcase in hand. Her name was Marissa Vance. Nathan had not seen her in years. She had once served as his JAG attorney during deployment. Tough. Sharp. No tolerance for lies. She sat across from him in the visitation room. Sharp. You look like hell. I have had better weeks. She dropped the file on the table. Your records were altered. The digital trail shows corruption. But someone buried the original recovery documents. Your status was never officially updated. Nathan leaned forward. Can you fix it? I can fight it. But not if you keep working from the shadows. These people are twisting the truth faster than we can catch up. Nathan's jaw clenched. They forged a trail to make it look like I faked my own death. Marissa's eyes darkened. I saw that evidence Elijah sent. He made it look real. Smart, calculated. But I have seen better forgeries. She opened her briefcase and pulled out a drive. Your VA therapist, Dr. Pierce, sent this. It is her full testimony. Everything you told her. Recorded and time-stamped. Nathan finally breathed. She believes me. Yes. And so do I. But you need to let me go on record. Nathan stood slowly. If they want a war in the open, then I will give it to them. Marissa nodded. Then prepare yourself. Because when this breaks, Nathan looked her dead in the eyes. It will be louder than the explosion that killed me. The prison yard was quiet under a flat gray sky. Nathan walked the perimeter slowly, his eyes scanning the fence line, the guards, the rhythm of routines. This was not his world. But like every battlefield he had ever stepped into, he adapted fast. On his third lap, a voice called out, "You Nathan Cole?" He turned. A man in his 40s leaned against the wall, muscular, buzz-cut, face lined with years of violence. His name was Hector Rivas. He used to be a deacon, until Elijah Ward testified against him. "I heard you used to be a ghost," Hector said. "Now you are back, and pissing off the wrong people." Nathan gave a half-smile. Not the first time. They sat in the corner of the yard. Hector's voice dropped. "Elijah destroyed my life. I ran a grief outreach. Legit work. But I would not play ball with his funding scam. So he painted me as a predator. Got me locked up on false charges." Nathan listened carefully. "He weaponized trust," Hector continued. "Used his church like a smokescreen. Took in donations, faked expenses, ruined anyone who asked questions." "You have proof?" Nathan asked. Hector nodded. "Letters, emails, originals. My sister kept everything." Nathan stared at him, heart pounding. This was it, corroboration. "Can your sister get them to my lawyer?" "She already knows to expect the call." They stood. Hector looked him in the eye. "You want to burn that bastard? I will light the match." Nathan walked back to his cell that night feeling something he had not felt in a long time. Momentum. And now, Elijah would not just face Nathan's truth. He would face the ghosts of every life he ruined. Elijah sat in his home office, trembling. His phone vibrated with another anonymous message. No words, just a photo of Hector Rivas, standing beside a younger Elijah, and a caption. "You remember him, right?" Emily stood behind him, pale and silent. "What does it mean?" she asked. Elijah's throat tightened. "It means he is talking. That bastard Nathan is getting to him." Emily grabbed the photo. "I thought Rivas was buried." "I thought so too," Elijah muttered. "I made sure of it." She stared at him. "What did you do, Elijah?" He turned, eyes dark. "I protected us. I did what I had to." She stepped back. "I never wanted this to become murder." He snapped. It was not murder. It was containment. Damage control. He knew things. He was going to bring the whole thing down. Emily backed away slowly. "You told me this was about survival. About love." Elijah's jaw tightened. "It was. No. It was about power." She stormed out of the room. Elijah turned back to his desk. He opened a drawer and pulled out a burner phone, something he had not used in over a year. He dialed a number. A woman's voice answered. "Deanna Marcus speaking. It is Elijah. I need you to disappear. Leave town. I cannot have you talking to anyone. Do you understand?" Silence. Then Deanna replied coldly. "You used me. You lied. And now you are scared." The line went dead. Elijah threw the phone against the wall. Every lie he had built, every manipulated sermon, every smile in the pulpit, it was all starting to collapse. He sat in the dark, shaking, whispering to himself. He is not dead. He is not gone. And deep down, he finally believed it. Dr. Alana Pierce walked into the courtroom lobby, heels echoing on polished floors. Marissa Vance greeted her with a nod. "Thank you for coming. You know this puts you at risk." "I know," Dr. Pierce replied. "But I am done letting a good man get buried twice." Inside the hearing room, Nathan stood behind glass. No jury yet, just legal teams and a judge reviewing motions. When Dr. Pierce took the stand, the energy in the room shifted. She placed her hand on the Bible. "I swear to tell the truth," and then it began. Staff Sergeant Nathan Cole did not fake his death. He was declared dead due to a combat misreport. His heart stopped for 3 minutes. He was revived, but before the paperwork caught up, his wife had filed for benefits. The opposing attorney tried to interrupt. "And how do we know this was not all part of a scheme?" Dr. Pierce turned, eyes steel. "Because I recorded every session." He came to me broken, confused, in pain. And what he wanted was not revenge. He wanted the truth. Marissa presented the audio tapes. Nathan's voice filled the courtroom speakers. "They took my name, my son, my story. I'm not trying to ruin them. I just want to be real again. Silence. The judge took notes, face unreadable. But Marissa could feel it. The shift. One person believing the truth becomes a domino. After the session, she walked Nathan back to his cell. You have witnesses, documents, recordings. If the judge signs off, your name will be legally reinstated. Nathan paused at the cell door. Then we go public. Marissa nodded. Elijah will not be able to hide behind God anymore. Nathan looked her in the eye. Good. Because I am bringing hell with me. Rain hit the windshield like gunfire. Nathan sat in the back of Marissa's black SUV as they drove past the town's welcome sign. Pine Bluff, North Carolina, where faith builds family. He stared at it like it was a lie carved in stone. Marissa glanced at him. You ready? No, he replied. But I do not need to be ready. I need to be relentless. She pulled into the Pine Bluff Daily office, the local paper, small but respected. Their editor-in-chief, Walt Drummond, was already waiting at the door. He had served in Vietnam, lost his brother to war, lost his son to pills. When he heard the full story, he had said one thing: I will print the truth. If it costs me donors, I will print it anyway. Inside the office, Nathan handed him the sealed envelope. Walt opened it. Inside, photos of Emily and Elijah together during the Memorial Week bank records with falsified charity routing Elijah's full email admitting Nathan will not come back from this, and a single flash drive labeled. The confession they never thought anyone would hear. Walt stared at it all. This is not just fraud. This is damn near evil. Nathan looked him straight in the eyes. Then publish it like hell is watching. Walt nodded once. And with that, the story was set for Sunday's front page. Back in the car, Nathan looked out the window at the church he used to trust. The candles in the sanctuary flickered through the stained glass like nothing had changed. But everything had. By morning, the lie would burn and truth would rise from the ashes. The next day, the hearing reconvened. This time, the room was full. Reporters lined the back wall. Veterans, donors, old neighbors who remembered Nathan as a child. Even members of Elijah's congregation sat in silence. Nathan entered, hands unshackled, wearing his army jacket. He walked past Emily and Elijah, who sat rigid at the defense table. Emily's hands were clasped, shaking slightly. Elijah's jaw was tight, his eyes scanning the crowd like a cornered animal. The judge adjusted his glasses. We have received new evidence. Testimonies. And a public report detailing serious allegations of fraud, identity manipulation, and financial theft. Marissa stood, calm and precise. My client, Staff Sergeant Nathan Cole, was declared dead through government error. He never filed for benefits, never manipulated his records. He came home to find his identity, family, and finances stolen. What he did was survive. Gasps rippled through the gallery. The prosecutor tried to respond, but their evidence was already unraveling. The forged messages on Nathan's drive had metadata that did not match. The emails were backdated by a software Elijah used. Then Dr. Pierce took the stand again. And this time, she read Nathan's words aloud. Every broken line, every honest truth. When she finished, no one clapped. No one cheered. They just sat in silence. Because everyone in that room finally saw it. The man they buried had been alive the whole time. The judge's gavel hit. Charges dropped. All allegations against Staff Sergeant Cole are dismissed. Immediate reinstatement of identity to be processed. Nathan let out a breath, not of relief, but of purpose. He turned once toward Elijah and saw something he never expected. Fear. Real, visible fear. Nathan stepped outside the courthouse and was hit by the low buzz of reporters, microphones, flashing bulbs. But none of that mattered. What stopped him, cold, was the sight of a small boy in a gray hoodie standing beside the front bench. Caleb, his son, 7 years old, clutching a folded newspaper in his hands. Emily stood behind him, tense, as if unsure whether to run or stay. Caleb looked up, his eyes locked with Nathan's. There was no sudden recognition, no magical reunion, just quiet curiosity, maybe even confusion. Nathan took a cautious step forward. Hi, he said softly. I am Nathan. Caleb held out the newspaper, today's edition of the Pine Bluff Daily. On the front page, the dead man who came home, the story of Staff Sergeant Nathan Cole. I saw your picture, Caleb said. In there. Mommy said you were a hero. Nathan knelt slowly, heart pounding. I used to tuck you in, he whispered. Before I left. I do not remember, Caleb said honestly. But you look like the guy in my dream. Nathan blinked fast, emotion rising in his throat. I do not expect anything, he said. I just wanted you to know I am real. I never left on purpose. Caleb studied him. Then he said, you sound like someone who tells the truth. Behind him, Emily could not speak. She looked hollow, drained, as if reality had finally snapped back into place, and she was no longer in control of anything. Nathan reached into his pocket. He handed Caleb a dog tag, the one he had worn through both war and betrayal. For you, he said. When you were ready. Caleb took it slowly, and for the first time, Nathan felt seen, not by a court, not by the public, but by his son. Elijah Ward paced his office like a caged animal. The blinds were closed. The lights were off. His desk was a mess of crumpled sermons, legal letters, and unopened emails. Everywhere he turned, someone else had turned their back on him. 3 elders from the church had resigned. The board had frozen access to the Restoration Hope Fund. Donors stopped returning calls. And now, even Emily had grown cold. She stood at the window, arms crossed. You said you had it under control, she said. I did, Elijah snapped. Until he came back. He is not just back, she said. He is winning. Elijah slammed his fist into the wall. You think I do not know that? Emily turned to him slowly. Maybe it is because he is telling the truth. And we are not. Elijah's eyes narrowed. Do not start getting righteous now, Emily. We buried him together. She went quiet. Elijah's phone buzzed. A voicemail from his assistant. He played it on speaker. Pastor, we're getting calls. People want answers. Channel 9 is running a segment. They are asking for comment on the fraud investigation and your role in the Cole case. Elijah ended the call. Silence stretched between them. Finally, he muttered, I built this town. No, Emily said. You built a stage. And now it is on fire. Elijah sank into his chair, face pale. He could feel it. The sermons were no longer working. The halo was cracking. And this time, no scripture would save him. Nathan sat alone at a diner outside town, a stack of letters on the table. They were all from Caleb's school, small assignments, art projects, journal pages. Riley had pulled them quietly through a friend at the district office. Nothing illegal, just a father reading the story his son had written while he was gone. One paper stood out. It was titled, Someone I Miss But Never Knew. Nathan unfolded it slowly. My name is Caleb. My mom said my real dad was brave. He was a soldier. She said he went away and never came back. Sometimes I dream about him. I think he is tall. He probably smiles like me. I do not remember his voice. But I think he told me something in my dream. He said, I see you. I am proud of you. I like to believe that is real. Nathan folded the letter, closed his eyes, tried to breathe. This was why he had come back. Not just to expose a lie, not just to punish those who buried him, but to prove to his son he had always been there, even when the world had erased him. He took out a fresh sheet of paper and began writing, Dear Caleb, you may not know me now, but one day, I hope you will. I never left you. I never stopped being your father. And no matter what anyone told you, the truth is simple. I was always proud of you. Always. He sealed the letter and placed it next to Caleb's journal page. 2 voices, separated by lies, but connected by something stronger. Blood. Sunday came again, but this time, the pews were quiet for different reasons. Elijah stood at the pulpit, face pale, smile forced. Only half the congregation had returned, and those who did were whispering, watching, waiting. The Pine Bluff Daily had published a follow-up story that morning. Pastor accused of defrauding charity donors. Former soldiers' testimony sparks community outrage. People were starting to ask real questions. About the money. About the truth. About Elijah. He cleared his throat. Good morning. I know many of you have heard rumors, half-truths, but we are a house of faith, and faith means holding strong in trials. A woman in the front row raised her hand. Elijah, is it true you were with Emily while her husband was still alive? Silence fell like a bomb. Elijah tried to smile. I would never betray a family in pain. Another voice cut in from the back. I gave $2,000 to the restoration fund. Where did that money go? Elijah's eyes darted. I assure you. Then another voice. And another. Where is Hector Rivas? What happened to Nathan Cole's funeral donations? What else are you hiding? Elijah's face turned red. His hands trembled at the pulpit. Behind the crowd, someone stood quietly near the doorway. Nathan. Not in uniform. Not in anger. Just there. Present. Real. He did not say a word. He did not need to. Because the room had already turned. The pastor's mask was broken, and the reckoning had begun. Emily sat at the kitchen table, her fingers trembling as she tried to type a transfer request from her phone. The lake house payment was due in 72 hours, and after the article in the paper, the bank had locked one of her accounts. She cursed under her breath. Everything was unraveling. She turned to the TV in the corner of the kitchen, where the local news anchor spoke calmly. Former Staff Sergeant Nathan Cole is expected to testify in open court next week, as investigations continue into the fraudulent use of his death benefits. Pastor Elijah Ward has refused to comment. Emily muted it. Elijah had gone silent. He no longer answered her calls unless it was urgent. She stood up and walked to the hallway closet, pulled down a leather folder, and opened it on the counter. Inside, new IDs, a fake passport under the name Erica West, and 2 plane tickets to Mexico. She stared at them. Her backup plan, the one Elijah told her never to use unless the walls started closing in. Well, the walls were not just closing. They were collapsing. She walked to Caleb's bedroom and watched him sleep. His face was peaceful. He was holding the dog tag Nathan gave him. For a moment, her heart twisted, not with guilt, but fear. She had lied too much, loved too little, used everyone. She walked back to the kitchen and opened her phone again, this time recording a voice message. Elijah, it is me. I cannot do this anymore. I cannot keep running from the mess we created. I will wait at the hotel near the state line for 24 hours. If you do not come by then, I am gone. Forever. She had sinned, and for the first time in a long time. She started to feel alone. Sunday morning. The church was half empty. The air inside was thick with tension. Elijah stepped up to the pulpit, his hands visibly shaking. His once flawless voice cracked as he greeted the few loyal faces who still showed up. Today's message, he began, is about redemption. A few heads turned toward each other in silence. Elijah cleared his throat. Sometimes we fall. We are judged unfairly. We are surrounded by evil. Someone coughed. Someone else stood up and walked out. He kept going. But faith is about surviving that fire. Faith is about standing even when they try to bury you. From the back row, an old woman raised her voice. Is that what you call what you did to Nathan Cole? Survival. Gasps followed. Elijah's voice rose, louder than before. I never hurt anyone. I gave. I helped. I sacrificed everything for this community. You lied, someone said. You stole, another voice added. Elijah's mask cracked. I built this church, he shouted. With my own hands. With my faith. Someone stood up and walked toward the exit. Then another. And another. In less than 2 minutes, half the room was gone. Elijah gripped the pulpit with both hands, his knuckles white. He whispered, this is not how it ends, but it was already ending. As he stepped down from the stage, he saw an envelope taped to the sanctuary door. His name written on the front. Inside, a single printed message. Next Sunday, the truth goes live. You always preach fire. Get ready to burn. The courthouse was packed. Local news crews were already outside. The hallway buzzed with anticipation. Veterans, community members, former donors, and reporters filled every seat. Inside, Elijah sat at the defendant's table, lips pressed tight, hands fidgeting beneath the surface. Emily was nowhere to be found. Marissa Vance stood calmly beside Nathan as the courtroom settled. The judge entered. This hearing will review the full evidence in the matter of identity fraud, financial embezzlement, and conspiracy connected to the false death of Staff Sergeant Nathan Cole. The prosecution called their first witness, Riley. She stepped up and delivered a flawless breakdown of the financial trails, the forged documents, the timing of deposits, the duplicate accounts, and Elijah's name. The courtroom began to shift. Then came Dr. Pierce. She brought the emotional weight, describing Nathan's mental health, his trauma, his loss, and how it all began with a systemic failure followed by human betrayal. Elijah's lawyer looked like he wanted to sink through the floor. Then it was Nathan's turn. He stood, took the oath, walked to the center like a soldier taking his final post. He spoke clearly, strongly. I came home expecting a wife, a son, a life I had fought to protect. What I found was a stranger in my bed, and a town that had already buried me. Gasps, tears, reporters scribbling. I am not here for pity. I am here for the truth. I did not fake my death. I survived it, and they tried to profit from it. He looked straight at Elijah. You gave my eulogy. Now hear my testimony. The judge banged the gavel. We will break for final review. Nathan returned to his seat, and for the first time, he saw Elijah look down. Because there was nothing left to say, as the crowd filed out for recess, Nathan remained seated. The noise faded behind him. Then a voice. Dad. Nathan turned. Caleb stood in the gallery row, eyes wide. His backpack was slung over one shoulder. Next to him stood a school counselor and a teacher who had brought him at his quiet request. Nathan rose slowly. You came. I wanted to see if the things I read were true, Caleb said softly. Nathan knelt down to his level. They are. Caleb looked down, then reached into his backpack and pulled out a folded sheet of paper. I drew this. For you. Nathan opened it. A sketch of 3 people, a boy in the middle, a soldier on one side, holding his hand. On the other side, a blank figure. Empty. That is you, Caleb said. And me. And the other person. I do not know who he really is anymore. Nathan blinked hard, held back the wave of emotion. I do not want to make this harder for you, he whispered. Caleb's eyes locked on his. You did not leave me. I think I knew that. Even when they said you did. Nathan looked over to the sketch again, and then back to his son. Whatever happens next, he said, I will be here. Not just for this. For you. Caleb nodded slowly, then wrapped his arms around Nathan's neck. And for the first time since returning from the dead, Nathan finally felt alive. The courtroom was still when Elijah took the stand. No jury, just the judge, attorneys, a full gallery, and the eyes of a town that had once called him their moral compass. His suit hung off him like paper. He had not shaved. His voice cracked as he took the oath. He glanced toward the back, saw Nathan seated beside Marissa, calm but sharp-eyed. Elijah adjusted the microphone. I never meant for it to go this far, he began. I told myself I was helping Emily, that the system failed her, that she deserved support. A cough from the gallery. He swallowed. I told myself that Nathan was not coming back, that it was better for the boy to have someone present than no one at all. Nathan never blinked. Elijah looked down at his hands. But the truth is, I liked being worshipped. I liked the power, the trust. And when I realized how easy it was to take, I took. He exhaled hard. I used church funds. I manipulated death records. I slept with a grieving wife before the funeral flowers even wilted. Gasps echoed. I did not just fail my church. I failed every person who ever believed I stood for something good. He looked up finally, eyes bloodshot. I used God's name to cover my sins. And now, I have no name left at all. The room went quiet. Then Nathan rose and stepped forward, not in anger, just to look him in the eye. You took my place, he said, voice steady. And now you will feel what it is like to lose yours. Elijah did not respond, because for the first time, he had nothing left to say. Emily's heels clicked across the courtroom floor like the ticking of a bomb. She wore a black dress, her hair tied tightly back, her eyes hiding behind mascara and desperation. She took the stand and barely glanced at the gallery. When asked to state her name, she hesitated. Emily. Cole, she whispered. Gasps. Confusion. Even the judge looked up. You are still using his name? Marissa asked. Emily shifted. It is still legal. Nathan's eyes narrowed. Marissa leaned in. Let me be clear. You filed death benefit claims while knowing your husband was alive. You signed real estate documents using stolen funds. And you committed perjury when you claimed Elijah Ward was only a family friend. Is that correct? Emily blinked rapidly. I did what I thought I had to do. You forged his death for money. No. Her voice cracked. I thought he was gone. At first. But when I knew he was alive, I panicked. I was already deep in it. Elijah said we had to keep going or we would lose everything. So you made a choice. Yes, she snapped. I made a choice to survive. What would you have done? The judge banged the gavel. Control yourself, Miss Cole. Emily turned toward Nathan suddenly. You have no idea what it was like. You were gone. Dead. I mourned you. I raised our son alone, Nathan stood. You raised him on lies. Silence. Emily's shoulders dropped. Her mouth trembled. He does not even look at me the same anymore. That is because he sees the truth now, Nathan said. Her voice dropped to a whisper. So do I. And in that moment, Emily Cole was no longer the puppet master. She was the ghost. The verdict came on a gray afternoon. Elijah stood with his head bowed as the judge read the sentence aloud. For the crimes of fraud, conspiracy, identity manipulation, and financial embezzlement. Elijah Ward is hereby sentenced to 22 years in federal prison, with no chance of parole for the first 12. Gasps. A few people cried. Emily sat frozen at the defense table. Her sentencing followed seconds later. For the crimes of benefit fraud, false identity filing, and conspiracy to defraud the United States government. Emily Cole is hereby sentenced to 9 years in state prison, with eligibility for release under monitored supervision after 5. The courtroom did not cheer. They just watched. Because justice, when real, is not loud. It is silent. And final. Nathan stood at the back, Caleb beside him, holding his hand. Emily looked up at him one last time. I never stopped loving him, she said. You just stopped being worthy of him, Nathan replied. As marshals escorted them both out, Nathan remained still. He had imagined this moment 100 times, but it did not feel like victory. It felt like the end of a war no one really won. The house was quiet. Nathan stepped inside for the first time since the court ruling. The key still worked. The air inside smelled like dust and old perfume. He walked through every room slowly. The kitchen, the hallway, the bedroom that was no longer his and never really had been, since the day she betrayed him. He sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the wall for a long time. The silence was louder now, because it meant he had won, but lost something too. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a framed photo, himself, in uniform, holding a baby boy. He set it on the nightstand. Then he took out another, his son, older now, smiling with crayon art in his hand. That one, he kept with him. He left the house quietly, locking the door behind him. No tears. No rage. Just one truth. He had come home to find a lie. But now, he was the truth walking free. And every step forward was no longer haunted by the past. Nathan's new apartment was small, quiet, but it was his. No lies in the walls. No ghosts in the hallways. Just a bed, a desk, and one framed quote on the wall. Truth does not scream. It just waits to be heard. He sat at the desk now, sorting through a shoebox filled with photos from his past. One picture stood out, his wedding photo. He stared at it for a long time, then gently set it face down on the table. Then he picked up another. It was the first time he held Caleb. The hospital wristband still on his arm, his eyes swollen with exhaustion and joy. Caleb's little hand barely wrapped around his finger. He smiled. On the wall across from his bed, Nathan placed 2 new photos. One, his military unit in Afghanistan. Every man in that frame had survived something: war, betrayal, trauma. The second, a drawing, crayon on white paper. A boy holding hands with a soldier. A dog tag around the neck. It was Caleb's. He had left it behind in Nathan's car last week, and Nathan had kept it ever since. He stared at those two photos, and for the first time since returning from the grave, he felt like he had finally come home. The sun was setting when Nathan arrived at the park. Caleb was waiting near the swing set, his school backpack beside him and a juice box half empty in the grass. Nathan walked slowly, unsure of what to say. Caleb spoke first. "You brought the dog tag?" Nathan smiled. "Always." He sat down on the swing next to him. They rocked slowly, no words exchanged for a few seconds. Just wind. Just time. Then Caleb asked, "Do you like football?" "I used to," Nathan said. "You play?" "Coach says I am fast." Nathan nodded. "I bet you are." More silence. Then Caleb turned to him. "Are you really my dad?" Nathan's voice cracked, not out of fear, but release. "Yes," he said. "I am." Caleb studied him. "You do not look like how I imagined. But your voice sounds right." Nathan exhaled. Deep. Long, honest. "I missed a lot," he said, "and I will not pretend I can fix that. But if you let me, I would like to be here. Really here. From now on." Caleb looked down at his shoes. Then up. "Do you know how to throw a spiral?" Nathan laughed, the sound catching in his throat. "I used to." "Then maybe you can teach me," Caleb said. Nathan nodded. "I'm stinging." "I would like that. A lot." And for the first time, when Caleb looked at him, he saw his father. Not the ghost. Not the name on a stone. But the man who came back. The state office was quiet when Nathan stepped in. He handed the clerk his documents, military orders, reinstated ID, the full court ruling. She looked up, stunned. "You are Sergeant Cole." "I am," he said. She scanned through the file. "Your records were wiped. Officially. You were legally dead for nearly a year." "I know. We do not get many resurrections." Nathan gave a small smile. "I would rather be on paper than 6 feet under." She processed everything slowly, then handed him a new state-issued ID. The name read, Nathan Cole Alive. Recognized. Real. As he walked out into the sunlight, something lifted. Not all the pain. Not all the loss. But the weight of being erased. Gone. Now replaced with presence. He sent a photo of the new ID to Marissa with a short message. "Thank you. It's official. I'm back." She replied instantly. "Welcome to the land of the living, Sergeant." Nathan looked up at the sky and whispered to himself, "No more hiding." From this moment forward, he would no longer be a memory. He would be a man rebuilt. Nathan found the envelope in his mailbox 3 days later. No return address. But the handwriting? He knew it instantly. He walked back inside, sat at the table, and opened it carefully. Inside was a letter. "Nathan, I know I do not deserve your forgiveness. I do not even deserve your eyes reading this. But I wanted to say, I am sorry. For everything. You were the better person. Always. Even when you were silent. Even when I tried to convince myself you were gone. You were more real than I ever was. I lost you twice. The first time to war. The second time, to the truth. And now that truth belongs to you. Tell Caleb whatever you feel is right. I will not write again. Emily." Nathan folded the letter. He did not cry. He did not rage. He just placed it back into the envelope, walked outside, and slid it into the fire pit. He watched the flame rise slowly, curling paper, peeling ink, dissolving memory. No more power. No more past. Just ash. Just peace. And with it, the chapter finally closed. The VA center had changed since Nathan was first admitted. New paint. New faces. But the benches out front still the same. He sat on one now, watching clouds drift through the sky. Calm. Unrushed. Dr. Alana Pierce stepped out a moment later and joined him. "I saw the news," she said. "Your name is clear. Charges dropped. You are officially back." Nathan nodded. "Feels strange." "Strange good or strange bad?" "Both." They sat in silence for a moment. Then Nathan spoke. "I thought when this was over, I would feel free. But now I just feel unfinished." Dr. Pierce looked over. "You came back to prove something. And you did. You exposed the truth. You rebuilt your name. You reconnected with your son." He looked at his hands. But I still do not sleep. I still wake up waiting for another lie to hit me in the chest. That is what trauma does. It lingers in the quiet. He turned toward her. So what now? You live, she said, not as someone who was buried, but as someone who chose to rise. Nathan looked out across the street, watching two kids ride bikes and a father waving from a porch. He took a long breath. I think I want to tell my story. Not for revenge. Not even for recognition. Just so people know. Dr. Pierce smiled softly. Then speak. Because the world listens to truth when it comes from someone who survived it. Nathan stood before a marble headstone. It still bore his name. Staff Sergeant Nathan Cole, 1985 to 2024, son. Husband. Hero. The grass was overgrown. The soil undisturbed. He knelt down and ran his fingers across the engraved letters. This was meant to be closure, he said aloud. A place to say goodbye. He looked around the quiet cemetery. But I never left. You buried my uniform, my photos, my name. But I was never here. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a folded note, the original one Emily had written for his funeral program. It was supposed to be a tribute. He placed it at the base of the grave. I do not need this place to define me anymore. Then he did something unexpected. He pulled out a marker, and under his name, he wrote in bold ink, "Alive." No one else saw it. No cameras. No reporters. Just him. A message to the past. A warning to every lie that tried to replace him. He stood up, turned, and walked away. No longer haunted. No longer hidden. Just a man, with a new chapter ahead. A large red and white sign stood outside Pine Bluff Baptist Church. For sale, bank-owned property. Nathan stood across the street in silence. The building that once held sermons about light and justice now stood empty. Stained glass cracked. The front doors boarded. The grass overgrown. The town had turned. No one came anymore. Not after the investigation. Not after the truth. Elijah's name had been scraped off every plaque. His sermons deleted from the church website. The man who claimed to guide others, erased by his own sins. Nathan crossed the street and walked slowly to the steps. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out the original flyer he had left there months ago. Truth is louder than sermons. He taped it back to the door. No anger. No pride. Just closure. Behind him, someone spoke. You really came back. He turned. It was Walt Drummond, the local journalist who had printed his story. I told you, Nathan said. The truth waits. Walt smiled. People still talk about it. About you. About what it means to lose a voice and find it again. Nathan looked back at the church one last time. I did not find it. I fought for it. And now, he was done fighting. The auditorium was quiet. Nathan stood on stage before a group of high school seniors and veterans from the town. A small community event. Nothing flashy. No headlines. Just real people. He held the microphone in one hand, his dog tag in the other. I was declared dead by a government form. A single mistake. But that was not what buried me. He paused. What buried me were lies. Trusted people. Manipulators who saw grief as an opportunity. The audience leaned in. But what brought me back was not anger. It was not even revenge. He looked out, eyes scanning the faces. It was the truth. The idea that no matter how long a lie lives, it cannot outlive the truth. He reached into his pocket and pulled out Caleb's drawing. This was the first thing my son ever gave me. He did not remember me. He barely knew my name. But he drew this anyway. He showed the paper. It reminded me that being alive is not about breath. It is about meaning. About presence. A veteran in the front row stood and clapped. Then another. And another. Soon the room echoed with applause, not just polite, but full of respect. A teacher stepped forward and shook his hand. You did not just survive, she said. You lived. Nathan smiled, holding back emotion. Yes, he whispered. I did. The drawing now hung in a black frame above Nathan's desk. Not in a museum. Not behind glass. Just on the wall of a small, quiet living room where he and Caleb now lived together, part-time custody, one step at a time. Caleb stood nearby, watching his dad carefully arrange a shelf of books and medals. "Are you ever going back to the army?" he asked. Nathan paused, smiling gently. "No, I already fought my last battle. Even if someone else needs saving?" Nathan crouched to his level. "Sometimes, saving people means being there every day, listening, showing up. That is my mission now." Caleb nodded thoughtfully, like a full-time superhero. Nathan laughed, ruffling his hair. "Something like that." Later that evening, they sat outside under the stars. The fire pit crackled gently beside them. Caleb pulled a second drawing from his backpack. This time, 3 people. Him, Nathan, and a fourth figure, just a heart. "What is that?" Nathan asked. "It is for Mom," Caleb said quietly. "Even if she is not here, I still love her. Just not the same." Nathan looked at his son, not a boy anymore, but a heart strong enough to hold pain and hope at once. He nodded. "That is the bravest thing anyone can do." Nathan stood at the Veterans Center podium for one final event, this time, not as a guest, but as the speaker of honor. The banner behind him read, "From silence to strength, honoring truth-tellers." He looked out at the crowd, soldiers, survivors, friends. His voice was calm. "When I came home, I thought I had survived the war. But the real battle started after that." He paused, scanning the room. It was not fought in trenches. It was fought in bedrooms, in bank records, in funeral homes, and worst of all, in silence. People leaned forward, listening. I was declared dead, then buried again by lies. But I stood back up, not to destroy people, but to defend the one thing that could not fake the truth. Applause rippled through the room. Nathan looked at a photo near the podium, his unit. All of them smiling. All of them still fighting, one way or another. "My name is Nathan Cole," he said. "I came back twice. Once from war, and once from betrayal. And I promise you this." He looked directly into the crowd. "No lie lives forever. But truth? Truth survives anything." The crowd stood as one, clapping, crying, saluting. And in that moment, there was no past to outrun, only future left to walk toward. It was morning. Caleb and Nathan walked down a tree-lined trail behind their apartment, backpacks on, coffee in hand. Nothing dramatic. Just life. "I have to give a presentation today," Caleb said. "Oh yeah? What is it about?" Caleb looked up at him. "My hero." Nathan smiled. "Want help?" "No," he replied. "I already picked." "Who?" Caleb grinned. "You." Nathan stopped walking. He looked at his son, that same brave boy who once drew a soldier without knowing his name. And now? He knew it fully. Nathan Cole. Father. Fighter. Survivor. Not the man they buried. The man who returned. They reached the school gates. Caleb turned before going in. "Can you come next week?" "I will be there," Nathan said. "Front row." And with that, Caleb ran off, strong and free. Nathan looked up at the morning sky. For the first time in years, he felt no ghost behind him, no lies on his name, no weight he had to carry. Just a new chapter, one he would write on his own terms. And now, a question for you, the ones who watched this entire journey unfold. If someone tried to bury your truth, would you rise like Nathan Cole did? Let me know in the comments. Where are you watching from? I would truly love to know. If this story made you feel something, if it gave you chills, tears, or even just a moment of quiet reflection, then kindly hit that like, drop a comment, and subscribe so you never miss the next twist-filled, emotional, bold, revenge thriller we create together. Until we meet again in the next unforgettable story. Take care of your truth. And as always, stay sharp. Stay standing. Stay real. See you in the next one.